My name is Melanie Sanchez, and I am here to talk to you a little bit about fairy tales today. This is my audience. Perfect. So, what are fairy tales? They are a reminder to hold on to hope. There are many different fairy tales. Some are old, some are rather new. No matter the story, they all have the same concept. They all tell us something. Something that's either going to be a lesson or something that we could use in our everyday life. The story of Alice in Wonderland is no exception. Before I tell you what the lesson is, how about a little storytelling? There once was a little girl whose name was Alice. She was very, very bored. While thinking about making a daisy chain, she saw a very, very strange looking rabbit. This rabbit had on a coat with a pocket watch, and he was running by saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to be very, very late." This intrigued Alice. Since this intrigued Alice, she decided to shut up and chase after him and try to figure out where he's going. When she did this, she discovered that he ran down a rabbit hole, and whenever she did that, well, may as well follow. You've already come this far. So she decided to go down the rabbit hole with him, and when she started falling, it seemed like forever. Finally, when she hit the ground, she could still see the rabbit. Up she shot and went after him. Despite all of her efforts, she lost the rabbit and found herself in a room full of doors, which they all were locked. She kept trying and trying and trying. None of the doors seemed to work. Finally, she noticed a small three-legged table in the center of a room, which had a golden key on it, as well as a little bottle and a little piece of bread. One said, "Drink me," one said, "Eat me." When she finally drank the bottle, she shrunk down to about 10 inches tall. She left the key up on the table, of course. Couldn't reach it. So she found the little piece of crumb cake that said, "Eat me," so she ate it and shot to the ceiling. Once she did that, she grabbed the key, drank what was left of the bottle, and shrunk back down. Whenever she was going around, she was trying to figure out what door this little key belonged to. When she did that, she finally found a little bit of a curtain. She opened that curtain and saw a little tiny door. So she went through that door. Alice met many people and a few different animals. All of these animals were able to carry on a conversation with her.
Wow.
Among those who mingled with her that she met, there was a man named the Mad Hatter. She met this man when she came among a large table full of rabbits, mice, and the Hatter. They were all having tea. During this time, Alice was trying to carry on a conversation with the Mad Hatter. And whenever he was talking to her, it didn't quite make sense. Because every single time she said something, he was saying in a riddle, and she didn't understand. So this made Alice pretty angry. So she got up and decided to leave. She left quite upset. And while she was walking, she managed to stumble upon a very beautiful garden.
What?
Now, this garden contained bright flower beds and beautiful fountains that were everywhere. But at the entrance, there was this beautiful placed tree that was full of white roses. They were so beautiful, but what she saw was a few gardeners in the garden that were painting all of these roses red. This intrigued her. She didn't really understand what was going on. So when she went up to them and asked them, they said, "This ought to be a rose tree, you see. We put a white one in by mistake, and if we do that, and the queen finds out, she'll cut our heads off."
Wow.
Just as he was telling Alice this, she noticed that the queen was coming their way. Alice introduced herself to the queen. The moment that they started talking, the queen became very irritated by Alice and screamed, "Off with the head!"
No!
To that, Alice interrupted and said, "That is nonsense." After a while, the queen began to like Alice and invited her to play a couple of games. You see, this queen is the Queen of Hearts, so she is very, very fond of some games. Alice began to become uneasy with the queen because every little thing that someone else did seemed to make the queen very, very upset. And it seemed to question what she would do if it were to upset her.
No.
Oh, no.
After the game, they went inside to eat and chat for a while. After a little while, there was a trial. You see, they had a trial because the queen was in one summer day making all kinds of tarts. Someone stole those tarts and made the queen very upset. And so while she was trying to figure out what it was, they were pulling up all these witnesses to see what they could come up with so the queen could cut someone's head off. Eventually, to Alice's surprise, she found that her name was called. And Alice didn't know what to say because she had seen nothing. She hadn't even been in town whenever everything was going on. And when Alice told the queen this is absolutely ridiculous, the queen got very upset and said, "Off with her head!"
No!
The queen did not think that this was possible, but Alice said, "I am not scared of you," and stood up to the queen.
Yay!
After all of this, Alice's sister was still under the tree with her and was waking her up. You see, everything in this was actually a dream. It never really happened. Now, in this fairy tale, there are many, many, many lessons. However, the very most important one is to never lose yourself and always stand up for yourself, no matter what is coming at your way. I will let you figure out what some of the other lessons are and leave you with that. Goodbye. And this is my audience once again.